The rain hadn't stopped since morning. It poured like it had something to say, filling the silence inside Emma's small house on the edge of Columbus, Ohio. She sat on the couch, half-empty cup of coffee in her hand, staring out the window. The sound of rain used to calm her, but lately it only reminded her how lonely the place had become. Her husband Mark had been working in another state for months, managing a construction project that kept extending. He called sometimes, sent her texts. But the distance between them had grown wider than the miles that separated them. Emma wasn't angry. She understood his dedication, but she missed warmth, laughter, and the small, everyday things that made life feel like life. The days had all started blending together. Morning turned into evening before she even realized it. The house felt too big, the nights too quiet. That Saturday. As she sat with her blanket wrapped around her legs, her phone buzzed. It was a text from Daniel. The name made her smile before she even read the message. Still raining over there? Lost power on my side. You okay? Daniel was an old friend from high school, someone she hadn't seen in years, until they'd randomly bumped into each other 2 weeks ago at a cafe downtown. He had been standing in line behind her, and when she turned around, they'd both frozen for a moment before breaking into laughter. It had been over 15 years, but his smile was still the same warm, genuine, effortless. Since then, they had texted a few times, nothing serious. Just friendly check-ins, jokes about their teenage years, and updates on life. He'd been through a rough divorce recently, trying to rebuild his photography business. There was an easy honesty between them, like no time had passed. Emma typed back, "Yeah, still raining. Power's out here too. Just candles and coffee keeping me alive." His reply came instantly. "Candles and coffee. Dangerous combination. I can bring over some real light if you want. Got a small battery lantern?" She hesitated, then smiled. "Sure, why not? I could use company." 15 minutes later, there was a knock on her door. When she opened it, Daniel stood there, damp from the rain. Holding a small lantern and wearing that same easy grin, couldn't leave you sitting in the dark. He said, "Come in," she replied, moving aside. The smell of rain and cold air followed him inside. He placed the lantern on the coffee table, and the soft yellow light filled the room. They sat together on the couch, laughing about how the storm had ruined both their weekends. The conversation flowed naturally, as it always did. Daniel talked about his latest photography project, about trying to find beauty in small things again. Emma listened, feeling her chest tighten with something she hadn't felt in a long-time connection. After a while, they stopped talking. The rain hit the windows harder, and thunder rolled in the distance. For a moment, neither of them said anything. The quiet between them was charged, filled with the weight of unspoken thoughts. "You look different," Daniel said finally, breaking the silence. Emma laughed softly. "Different good or different bad?" "Good," he said without hesitation. "You look peaceful. But, I don't know, maybe a little sad too." His honesty caught her off guard. She looked away, her fingers tracing the rim of her coffee mug. "It's been a long few months," she admitted. "Mark's been away a lot. Work never ends for him." Daniel nodded, understanding in his eyes. "I get it. I was that guy once. Thought I was doing everything right by working hard. Didn't realize what I was losing until it was gone." His words lingered in the air, soft but heavy. Emma didn't reply. She didn't need to. He already knew what she was thinking. The wind howled outside, and the lights flickered for a moment before fading completely. The only light now came from the candles and the lantern, casting a warm glow across their faces. Daniel leaned back on the couch, relaxing. "Guess the storm's not ending anytime soon. Looks like you're stuck here," Emma said with a half smile. "Wouldn't be the worst thing," he said quietly. Her heart beat faster. She wasn't sure if it was the rain, the silence, or the way his voice had softened. She tried to change the subject, asking about his photography again, but her words felt mechanical. Deep down, she knew something had shifted. An hour passed, maybe more. The storm showed no sign of slowing. They talked about everything: life, regrets, dreams that never worked out. Daniel told her how he'd once planned to open a studio but couldn't because of his marriage falling apart. Emma shared how she had always wanted to teach art but had chosen a more stable path instead. As they talked, they started to remember moments from their past school dances, camping trips, that time they'd both gotten lost driving to a concert. The laughter that filled the room sounded almost foreign, like it belonged to two different people. When their laughter faded, a comfortable silence settled again. Emma looked at Daniel, realizing how much he'd changed. There was a steadiness in him now, a quiet maturity that hadn't been there before. She admired it. He met her gaze, holding it for just a moment too long. "You ever think about how different life could have been?" he asked. She smiled faintly. "All the time." He nodded. "Maybe it's not too late to change some things." His words hit something deep inside her. She wanted to believe him. For so long she'd been surviving, going through motions, pretending everything was fine. But in that small, quiet living room, surrounded by candlelight, she felt like herself again. It scared her. She stood up, pretending to adjust the curtains. "You should probably head back before the roads flood," she said. Her voice soft but unsure. Daniel watched her for a second, then stood too. "You really want me to go?" The question hung there. Emma turned toward him, her eyes searching his. "No," she said finally. "But maybe you should." He smiled faintly. "You've always been honest, Emma. I like that about you." She didn't reply. Instead, she walked him to the door. The rain outside was relentless, drumming against the porch roof. He hesitated before stepping out. "Take care of yourself, okay?" "I will," she said. "Thanks for coming by." He nodded, pulling his hood up and walking toward his car. Emma stood in the doorway, watching him disappear into the rain. Her heart felt heavy, conflicted. When she closed the door and leaned against it, she realized her hands were trembling. The quiet returned, but it didn't feel peaceful anymore. It felt like something was missing, something that had just walked away. She sat back down on the couch, staring at the candlelight. Her mind replayed every moment of the evening, every word, every look. It wasn't what she had planned. She didn't mean for anything to happen, but something had started. Something she couldn't quite define. The storm raged outside, but Emma barely noticed. She was lost in thought, torn between guilt and longing, between loyalty and the fragile feeling of being seen again, and somewhere deep inside, she knew this night had changed everything. When she finally went to bed, she couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Daniel's face, his kind eyes, his quiet understanding. Her phone buzzed beside her. A new message. "Text me if you can't sleep," it read. Emma stared at it for a long time before finally typing back, "I can't." Outside, the storm continued, but inside her heart, something even stronger had begun. The next morning, the storm had passed, leaving Columbus drenched but sparkling under a pale sun. Emma woke slowly, still feeling the echo of last night, the warmth of Daniel's presence. The way the room had seemed smaller, more intimate with him there. She tried to brush it off as just a fleeting moment, a temporary relief from loneliness, but deep down, she knew it was more than that. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. A message from Daniel. "Morning. Did you survive the storm?" She smiled, typing back barely. "You?" "Same. Thought about staying longer last night, but didn't want to overstep." Emma stared at the screen, her heart skipping. Overstep. She knew exactly what he meant. Yet she also felt an unexpected pull in honesty that had been missing from her life for months. By mid-morning, she was out for a walk, hoping to clear her mind. The streets were glistening, reflections of sunlight dancing on puddles. Every step reminded her of last night, his laughter, the gentle way he had listened, the warmth that lingered long after he left. She couldn't help but replay every moment, questioning what it all meant. Daniel called her around noon. She hesitated before answering, but the sound of his voice was comforting, familiar. "Hey," he said. "Thought I'd see how you're doing." "I'm okay," she replied. "Just processing, I guess." "You and me both," he said, quiet for a moment. "Emma, I know this might sound strange, but I felt something last night." Something I haven't felt in a long time. And I think you did too. Emma's stomach fluttered. I don't know, she admitted. I feel something, yes. But it's confusing. I can't even explain it. Daniel sighed softly. I know. I shouldn't even bring it up. But I needed to be honest. I ended the call with a promise to meet that evening. Emma spent the day restless, her mind running through every possible scenario, every emotion she hadn't let herself feel in months. She felt excitement, fear, guilt, and longing all at once, a whirlwind that made it hard to focus on anything else. By 6, she had prepared tea and lit candles, the soft glow creating a cozy atmosphere. She opened the door when she heard a knock and found Daniel standing there again, Akuna, holding a small umbrella dripping with rain remnants. His smile was gentle, reassuring, yet something about it made her pulse quicken. Mind if I come in? He asked. Of course, she said, stepping aside. They settled in the living room, the lantern from last night casting shadows that danced softly on the walls. They spoke at first about trivial things, the storm, traffic, and the city's small inconveniences, but the conversation gradually shifted toward personal confessions. Daniel told her about his divorce, how hard it had been to feel invisible in his own life. He admitted he had sometimes wondered if he had made the wrong choices, and that the loneliness had felt unbearable at times. Emma listened, her heart aching for him, realizing how much they shared in common. Her own stories spilled out her longing for companionship, her regrets about missed opportunities, and the emotional distance she felt from Mark. At one point, she paused, unsure if she should continue. But Daniel's gaze encouraged her. It was patient, understanding, unwavering. You can tell me anything, he said. I sometimes feel like I'm living someone else's life, Emma confessed, her voice soft. I do what's expected, but there's this part of me that's been silent for so long. I forget what it feels like to just feel alive. He reached out and touched her hand lightly. Not inappropriately, just a reassuring connection. I get that, he said, and you're not alone. The moment stretched, heavy with unspoken understanding. Neither spoke for several minutes, yet it didn't feel awkward. There was a quiet intimacy in simply being present, in knowing that someone else truly understood. Then the power flickered again, reminding them of the storm's after effects. Emma laughed softly. Seems like the weather has a mind of its own. Daniel smiled, but his eyes held a serious softness. Emma, last night, I felt something I can't ignore, and I think you did too. Her heart pounded. She looked away, conflicted. I don't want to feel guilty, she admitted. But I also can't ignore what I feel. I'm not asking for anything reckless, he said. Just honesty. I wanted to know if you feel it too. Emma exhaled, her hands trembling slightly. Yes, she whispered. I feel it, and I don't know what to do about it. Daniel nodded. Then we don't have to do anything right now. Just acknowledge it. That's the first step. The night deepened, and they sat together in the dim glow, talking and laughing, sharing memories and vulnerabilities. It was effortless, natural, and yet charged with the kind of tension that comes from something unspoken but understood. Hours passed. The candlelight softened. The storm outside had completely subsided, leaving a calm, quiet night. Daniel glanced at the clock. I should probably go, he said reluctantly. Emma felt a pang in her chest. I don't want you to leave, she admitted, surprising herself. I don't want to go either, he said. But I have responsibilities, and you do too. They lingered at the door, reluctant to part. Neither of them wanted to break the fragile connection they had built in these few hours. Finally, Daniel stepped outside, and they shared a quiet moment in the lingering chill of the night. Thank you for tonight. Huh? Emma said softly. No, Daniel replied. Thank you for letting me in. Not just into your house, but into your life. She watched him walk away, feeling a strange mix of relief and longing. Relief because the tension had been acknowledged. Longing because she wanted it to continue, wanted him to stay. wanted to explore the connection that had awakened inside her. When she returned inside, she sat by the window staring at the empty street. She realized she hadn't felt so alive in months. Not since Mark had left for work. Not since her routines had become mechanical and gray. And now everything was different. She had felt seen, understood, and most dangerously wanted. Her phone buzzed again. A new message from Daniel. Sleep well. Emma stared at it, her thumb hovering over the screen. She typed back quickly, almost without thinking. I don't know. Can't stop thinking about tonight. Okay, a minute later, his reply came. Me neither. We'll figure this out. Together. Emma's heart raced. Together. The word resonated deep inside her. It wasn't a promise of anything inappropriate, just a promise of understanding. Of companionship, of shared emotional space. And for now, it was enough. That night, she lay in bed awake, memories of the evening playing in her mind like a movie. The gentle way he had listened, the warmth of his hand on hers, the honesty in his voice, it all felt overwhelming. She didn't know where it would lead. But she felt something she hadn't in a long time. Hope. Morning came slowly, bringing with it sunlight and birdsong. Emma dressed and prepared breakfast, but her mind wasn't on cooking. It was on Daniel, on the honesty they had shared, on the delicate bond forming between them. Her phone buzzed again. Another message. Want to meet for coffee today? Talk more. Emma hesitated, then smiled. Yes, I'd like that. And so the day began, not with the routine she had expected, but with anticipation, possibility, and the thrilling uncertainty of something new. For the first time in months, Emma felt alive. Her heart opened to connection, to understanding, to moments that might change her life forever. She didn't know what the future held. But she knew this. Last night had shifted something inside her. And for the first time in a long time, she wasn't afraid of feeling it. As she stepped out into the morning sunlight, the world seemed brighter. The storm had passed, but the emotional storm inside her had just begun. It was exhilarating. The morning sunlight streamed through the curtains, casting golden streaks across Emma's living room. She felt different. Today lighter, more awake. As though the weight that had been pressing on her chest for months had lifted, if only slightly. Last night's conversation with Daniel had stirred something deep inside her, a feeling she hadn't allowed herself to embrace in a long time. Hope. Her phone buzzed again. A message from Daniel. Coffee at our usual spot in 30. She smiled, typing back. See you there? 30 minutes later, she walked into the small cafe downtown. The aroma of fresh coffee and baked goods mingled with the chatter of early patrons. Daniel was already there, sitting by the window, a warm smile on his face. He waved, and Emma's heart skipped a beat. They ordered coffee and settled into a quiet corner. The hum of the cafe creating a comforting backdrop for their conversation. Unlike yesterday, the tension had eased. It's replaced by a growing sense of familiarity and trust. So Daniel began stirring his coffee slowly. I've been thinking about last night. About us. Emma swallowed, feeling a flutter in her chest. Me too, she admitted. It's confusing, but I can't deny it either. He nodded, his gaze steady. I don't want to rush anything. I just want to be honest with you, always. She appreciated his caution. After months of feeling unseen and unheard, this honesty was a relief. I've missed this, she said softly. Being able to talk to someone without pretending, without holding back. They spent the next hour sharing stories, childhood memories, recent struggles, small triumphs they rarely admitted to anyone. Every word built a bridge between them, a connection deeper than either had anticipated. Emma realized she had been craving exactly this. Someone who understood her, who listened without judgment, who made her feel alive again after coffee. They decided to take a walk through the nearby park. The city felt vibrant, even with the remnants of the recent storm puddles reflecting the sky, leaves glistening with rain. They walked side by side, speaking softly, laughing at small jokes, sharing glances that lingered longer than usual. At one point, Daniel stopped and turned to her. Emma, he said, his voice gentle. I know this is sudden, but I feel like I've known you longer than I should have. Last night, today. It's all been overwhelming, but in the best way. Emma's breath caught. I feel the same, she admitted. I've spent so long waiting for someone to see me, and now I feel like you do. He reached for her hand, a simple gesture that felt charged with meaning. Then let's not ignore it, he said. They continued walking, hands brushing occasionally. Neither forcing the moment, both savoring the subtle closeness. It was new, it was fragile, but it was theirs. By late afternoon, they returned to Emma's apartment. The sun had begun to dip, painting the sky with streaks of orange and pink. They stood on the balcony for a while, watching the city settle into evening. Do you ever think about what could have been different? Emma asked quietly. All the time, Daniel admitted. But I've also realized that what matters is what we do now, not what we missed before. Her heart lifted at his words. You're right, she said. It's about the present, about the choices we make from here on. That night they shared a quiet dinner, laughter filling the small apartment. It was comfortable, natural, and yet the undercurrent of connection was undeniable. Emma realized she had not felt this scene this appreciated in years. Daniel had a way of making her feel alive without demanding anything, without rushing, without expectation. As the evening progressed, the conversation shifted to dreams and fears. Daniel spoke about wanting to rebuild his life after the divorce, to find stability and trust again. Emma shared her longing for companionship, for a partner who could understand her without judgment. They paused, the room heavy with unspoken feelings. Daniel reached out, taking her hand again. Emma, I don't want to lose this, he said softly. Whatever this is between us, I want to explore it carefully, honestly, fully. Her eyes filled with tears, but they were tears of relief and joy. I don't want to lose it either, she whispered. For the first time in months, Emma felt a sense of security, not in a relationship defined by labels or expectations, but in a bond built on trust, honesty, and mutual respect. She realized that this connection, fragile and new as it was, had the potential to heal the loneliness that had haunted her life. Over the following weeks, their bond deepened. They met for coffee, shared walks in the park, and spent evenings talking for hours. Each moment built trust. Each conversation strengthened their understanding of one another. It wasn't about rushing, it was about being present. Fully attentive to the person across from them, Emma began to notice changes in herself. She smiled more freely, laughed without hesitation, and allowed herself to feel joy in small things again. The shadow of loneliness that had once been so heavy had begun to lift, replaced by a warmth she hadn't expected. One evening, as they sat together on the balcony, Daniel turned to her. Emma, I know this isn't conventional and it's not easy, but I want to be honest. I care about you deeply, and I don't want to hide it anymore. Emma's heart swelled. I care about you too, she admitted. I've been afraid to feel it, afraid to admit it, but I can't anymore. They sat in silence for a while, letting the words sink in. The city lights twinkled below them, a gentle reminder that life went on, that their moment was theirs alone. The next few weeks brought new experiences. They cooked together, shared stories about childhood dreams, and discovered little quirks that made each other laugh. Emma realized that the emotional intimacy she had been craving was not about grand gestures or dramatic declarations. It was about presence, honesty, and understanding. One rainy afternoon, as they shared a quiet moment watching the droplets slide down the window, Emma reflected on how far she had come. The storm, the fear, the uncertainty had all led to this point. To a connection that was tender, safe, and deeply meaningful. Daniel broke the silence with a smile. You know, Emma, I think we were both waiting for this. For someone to finally see us, truly see us, and not run away. Emma nodded, feeling a lump in her throat. Yes, and now that we've found it, I don't want to lose it. He reached for her hand, their fingers intertwining naturally. Then we won't, he said. As the weeks turned into months, Emma and Daniel continued to explore their bond. It wasn't about rushing into a label or forcing the future. It was about building trust, sharing experiences, and finding joy in each other's company. Emma realized that life didn't have to be defined by loneliness or missed opportunities. Connection could be found in small gestures, in honest conversations, in moments where someone truly listened. Daniel had become more than a friend. He was a partner in the truest sense, someone who made her feel alive without expectation or demand. One evening, as they watched the sunset together, Daniel turned to her and said, "Emma, I don't know what the future holds, but I do know this: I'd want to face it with you." Tears welled in her eyes, but they were tears of joy. "I want that too," she whispered. In that moment, Emma realized something profound. Happiness wasn't about perfection. It wasn't about never feeling fear or doubt. It was about finding someone who made life brighter, who shared your moments and understood your heart. And she had found that with Daniel. The storm had passed, both outside and within her. The uncertainty, the longing, the fire it had all led to this beautiful, fragile, yet unbreakable connection. And for the first time in a long time, Emma allowed herself to feel completely, to hope fully, and to trust entirely as they held hands on the balcony. Watching the city lights twinkle and fade into night, Emma knew that this was only the beginning. The journey ahead was unknown, but she was ready to face it together. Life had taken unexpected turns. But sometimes the best stories were the ones that unfolded slowly, honestly, and with a heart willing to feel. And Emma had finally found hers.